Authorities have temporarily raised the security level at a NATO airbase in western Germany, citing a potential threat. The second highest alert level was in effect from late Thursday until Friday afternoon before being reduced to its previous elevated level. The airbase houses aircraft carrying long-range surveillance systems. The heightened alert level followed warnings from Western intelligence agencies that Russia was stepping up sabotage attacks across Europe in an attempt to disrupt arms supplies and support for Ukraine. One of the countries most prepared for such incidents is Finland. DW's Terry Schultz reports tonight.
Why would Finland, known as the land of 1,000 lakes, suddenly have concerns about its water supply? Because that's exactly the aim of multiple bizarre but unsuccessful attempts this summer to break into Finnish water facilities.
You pay a couple thousand euros for some criminal just to go in and break the door, and that's enough to cause the whole huge headlines, people worried, tying up a lot of resources. I would be a Russian GRU military intelligence officer and wondering how do I make Finns people worried in Finland to punish them for their joining NATO and all the other things. Well, that's a very easy, very cheap way to do it.
Pekka Toveri is the former head of Finland's military intelligence, newly elected to the European Parliament. He came under fire recently for saying Russia is waging war on Finland through sabotage and hybrid attacks. He tells me it's actually a war on the entire West.
They want to hurt us, and they're doing whatever they can do.
One of the most shocking plots uncovered recently was a reported Russian plan to assassinate the CEO of Rheinmetall, a major supplier of arms to Ukraine. In Poland and Lithuania, strong allies of Kyiv, a mall and an IKEA were destroyed by fire. Polish authorities have made arrests linking the incidents and implicating Moscow. But if any country is ready for such attacks, it's Finland, which, unlike most of Europe, never let its guard down after the Cold War. Protection of critical infrastructure, including water facilities, has remained paramount even during peacetime.
We have been quite well prepared already before these 2.5 years happenings in Ukraine. But of course, this type of activities, what we have had now during last months, of course, we have to re-evaluate if we have something to do more.
Finland is also prepared to protect its people. Underground shelters, which can withstand conventional or even nuclear war, can fit almost 90% of the entire population of Finland. In Germany, it's just over 0.5%. In addition, Finnish citizens are periodically trained to take on specific crisis operation tasks in case of emergency. These are all reasons European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made former Finnish President Sauli Niinistö a special advisor, who'll write a report on the EU's civilian defense and preparedness.
We have a lot to learn from Finland.
Niinistö explains that while structures are important, much of Finland's readiness is a mindset that comes with the territory, that 1,300-kilometer border with Russia. But he says all of Europe needs to wake up to these threats.
It's no use of frightening anybody. But we have all the reasons to remind that, peace and security, they are value number one. I would like people to understand more that maybe in the future it seems that we have to put resources more on security.
He won't preview what specific recommendations he may make to the EU, but he'd like to see public and private sectors cooperate more on security.
So that private sector can share its experiences and its skills, and public sector, which has always some sensitive knowledge, could be a bit more open. But all that needs that you have huge trust to each other.
He hopes helping to illustrate the enormity of the common threat will increase the necessary common trust across Europe.
That report was filed by my colleague Terry Schultz, who joins me now from Brussels. Terry, good to see you. Let's talk about some things that have been going on here. The Geilenkirchen Air Base in northwest Germany raised its threat level for about 24 hours and ordered non-essential personnel to stay home. What more do we know, and do we know why this base could possibly be a target?
We don't know why they did it. And I did speak with an official at the base today and asked as many questions as I could about what might have happened, and didn't get anything out of this official. So that's unfortunate. But at the same time, we know that Geilenkirchen is a natural target. This is where NATO houses its AWACS fleet. That's 14 flights, 14 planes that do reconnaissance and surveillance all across NATO territory and international airspace. And they can see some 310,000 kilometers into, for example, Ukrainian territory, into Russian territory. And so they've become even more important since Russia started its full-scale war on Ukraine, because this really tells NATO what Russia is doing. And also these planes serve as a deterrent to warn Russia, don't come any closer to NATO territory.
You know, like the incidents that you described in Finland, there was also a suspected attempt to tamper with the water supply at a German military base earlier this month. And this week, we've seen drone flights over a sensitive industrial park on the German North Sea coast. What do you think's going on here?
That's right. And in this case, where the drones were sighted, it was very interesting that Germany announced publicly the investigation suspected espionage for the purpose of sabotage. So this was something that they're really becoming much more candid about, which teaches us a lot, even if we don't know the exact details. And yeah, as you mentioned, there have been other incidents. This base close to Cologne, where somebody cut a hole and somehow got close to the water supply. You know, for 24 hours, it was believed the water supply had been tampered with. And that's something that's really frightening, of course, to the population. And when that population is a military base, of course, you've got to suspect that there was an attempt to disrupt what the military is doing on that base.
And Terry, is this the case? I mean, is security really that lax that essential water supplies are just, what, a chain link fence away from the outside world?
We have to hope not. And it certainly isn't true across the board, or maybe I should say across the block, because these incidents in Finland, and there have been several over this summer, that's why I went there to do this story, they didn't get close to the water supply. And this ended up being more like vandalism as they tried to break down doors and cut through fences, but they didn't get to the water supply. And as we know, in this German case also, they ended up not being able to tamper with the water supply. So we don't want to scare people, but certainly I'm sure these bases are stepping up their security, not just raising the threat level as we saw in Geilenkirchen, but, you know, looking at what more they can do to keep people further away from the bases. This is certainly, you know, the MO for people who want to disrupt and conduct these kind of incidents.
Yeah, these people you're talking about, I mean, do we know who they are? I mean, are they Russian state actors? Is the Kremlin outsourcing, you know, this behavior? I mean, and at what level does this become a state-on-state conflict?
That's a more complicated issue than it seems, because, of course, as Pekka Toveri, the former Finnish intelligence chief, noted, Russia or whatever government or whatever entity would want to conduct these attacks can simply find local criminals. And we've understood from intelligence reports that Russia is doing that on the dark web, looking for people to conduct these attacks. And, you know, they don't have to pay them very much, and it can cause a really big disruption. But to link them back to the Russian government is more difficult. Now, that has happened in a couple of cases already. There was a big fire. The largest mall in Warsaw was set on fire. An IKEA store was set on fire in Lithuania. And Poland found the perpetrators, found that these two cases were linked, and prosecuted them. There's also been a case in Estonia where there was an attack on an Estonian official, an attack on a journalist, and they also found those perpetrators and prosecuted them. And no surprise, they were linked back to Russia. But for it to rise to a level where NATO would say that Russia is attacking a NATO member state, you know the implications of that. Yeah. Then you need to start talking about, will there be an Article 5 response? And nobody's ready to do that for attacks at this low level. And that's exactly what the Kremlin is counting on.
Your report says that the European Union can learn from Finland when it comes to protecting critical civilian infrastructure. Now, the cynic in me has a question for you. If the EU commissions a study now, how fast do you expect security and awareness to really improve?
Maybe never. unfortunately. I mean, if you're being realistic. And former Finnish President Niinistö was extremely humble, and he kept telling me, don't make it seem like I'm going to tell the EU what to do. He was commissioned to look at the readiness across the bloc. And of course, Finland is basically the star pupil here. Some of the other frontline states, Sweden also do quite well. But what he said was, you can build all the infrastructure protection that you want. You can, you can put up walls. You can have surveillance of possible intruders. But until people decide that they are worried about this and they want to protect their infrastructure, you can't change the mindset to one of true readiness. And this is what he said will take a really long time. And in some countries, far from the front line, perhaps it won't happen at all.
DW's Terry Schultz with the latest tonight from Brussels on a Friday night. Terry, as always, thank you.